Well, the White House set to release a new version of President Trump's executive order on immigration and travel. Will it satisfy the courts, which put a stop to the first attempt? The Wall Street Journal says the new order will still affect immigrants from the same 7 Muslim-majority nations, but it won't prevent people with work visas or green cards or dual citizenship from entering the United States. And people already in transit when the order comes down will not be affected. I'm joined now by Gregg Jarrett, Fox News anchor and attorney. So they've had some time to work through this, go over the legal objections that all of these courts have made to what the president tried to do the first time around. Will they get it right this time?
Yeah, it's a do-over, sort of the wisdom of hindsight and time. This is really what they should have done before they issued the first order. But reportedly, they will exempt, as you point out, green card holders and those with legal immigrant visas. That was one of the primary objections of the judges, no due process for those people, which, by the way, is debatable. But the other main objection was that this order constituted a religious discrimination. There's a way to simply avoid that specious argument, and that is to simply add some non-Muslim majority nations to the list. You can add North Korea, you can add Cuba, South Sudan, a couple of other nations that are on the double TSA security list. And then specify in the order we're discriminating against potential terrorists within those nations, not against Muslims.
But one of the questions these judges asked a lot during the various challenges was, do these nations actually pose a terroristic threat? Now, you said in that chair many times that that's really not the judge's business to decide whether or not they pose a threat, but how do they answer that?
Yeah, it's none of their business. They were trying to weigh in on the wisdom of the president's order, not on his authority. So the way you get around that is to simply lay it out to the American public and to the judges in the order itself. Most orders are just declarations, do this. You can put in a bunch of whereas, laying out the reasons. Reason number 1 would be, these 7 nations have governments that don't help us with background checks and vetting. We can't do it by ourselves. Number 2, identify all of the people from those 7 nations who came to the United States, and there are dozens of them, who were arrested and convicted of terrorist plots. That's a matter of public record. You're not disclosing classified information. And finally, point out to the court that, look, these 7 nations were identified by Congress in its anti-terrorism law that President Obama signed as sources of terrorism and a national security threat. These are all things, by the way, the Department of Justice lawyers during the oral arguments in front of the Ninth Circuit should have argued, should have explained. They didn't do it. They seemed unprepared, and frankly, it seems like they were ignorant of the justifications and reasons.
And it does appear that the administration has decided not to issue a blanket ban on immigration of Syrian refugees under these new terms.
Yeah, that wasn't something that too many judges were terribly concerned about, but it does appear that, you know, the administration is taking this very seriously, and they're looking at all potential legal or judicial problems. And so they're going to try to get rid of that by saying no longer will there be an automatic ban on Syrian refugees. Now, the majority will have already come in the fiscal year, and there's a cap now of, I think it's 50,000. And so that's not as great a concern as people who are coming from the 7 identified nations.
Gregg Jarrett, our Fox News anchor, as well as attorney. Gregg, thank you.
Yeah.